Salar experienced at the ashram while he was sleeping.
I must have fallen asleep. Then suddenly I heard Swamiji's voice, "George, get up!" Very loud. I woke, immediately startled, and the congri had spilled. It had burned a hole in my mattress. There was already a hole in my shirt, and my skin was red but not sore. The room was full of smoke. So after I had gotten rid of all the smoke, opened the windows, let the place air out, I went down and thought I should go to the ashram and see what Swamiji wants. After all, he must have called me from the window. As I walked back to the ashram gate, I noticed that there were no fresh tracks in the snow. When I arrived in the ashram, the two ladies were sitting on the veranda, and I asked, had Swamiji called me? They said, no, he's been in his room ever since you left after lunch. So I went back, and then at 4 o'clock, I got the call to come for tea. When we sat for tea, Swamiji sat there casually. We had tea. There was no discussion. But at the end, he said, "George, do you have enough coal for your congri?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "Very good." He said, "This congri," he said, "it's very good, you know, but it can be a blessing, can also be a curse."
Swamiji would often take his devotees to various places of pilgrimage and scenic beauty. The aim was to acquaint them with the sacred geography of the valley and other places of Hindu pilgrimage.
In 1968 में उन्होंने कहा कि हम अमरनाथ जी की यात्रा करेंगे। अमरनाथ की यात्रा करने के लिए अच्छा जी जो आना चाहता है वो जाएंगे। We will go in a group. You will not believe it. 68 था और 68 ही आदमी थे who joined this group. And we had the privilege of going with Swamiji that time.
Swamiji's great love for the environment was there for all to see. He saw divinity in nature and all its creations. Most importantly, he abhorred the senseless slaughter of animals for food and encouraged his followers to travel the countryside. Swamiji's love of nature had in fact much to do with the profound aesthetic sense he possessed. He loved all beautiful things as manifestations of the divine. That is how he loved music and even appreciated art. After all, communion with the serene and calm, he felt, was like communion with God.
Chakar karne yele gatsan, imas et petas tat laichukun gatsan, yos tat lurtos pahadas tor kunos, tat shinas pet shinos pyomut, imas at orior karan. Imas patiman ganta was वापस iman.
स्वामी जी आते थे हर साल ड्यूरिंग विंटर मंथ्स आते थे 2-3 महीने के लिए यहाँ जम्मू आते थे। तो जम्मू से हर मतलब जितने भी हमारे स्वामी जी के डिसाइपल्स थे, डिवोटीज थे, वो किसी संडे को वो करते थे या कोई प्रोग्राम किसी दिन बनाते थे, तो सबों को यहाँ अपने डिवोटीज को यहाँ लाते थे। मानसर का जो वातावरण है बहुत ही शांत है। हर एक एरिया से आप देख लीजिए यहाँ पर कितनी मन की शांति मिलती है। अगर आप बैठेंगे किसी भी जगह बहुत ही शांति मिलती है हर। अच्छा, उसके साथ जिस वक्त आप मंत्रों का उच्चारण भी करेंगे तो ये सारा चार्ज हो जाता है, वाइब्रेट हो जाता है सारा एटमॉस्फेयर यहाँ पर। नंबर 2, आप देखेंगे हमारे पास कुछ ऐसे भी फोटोग्राफर स्वामी जी के उस वक्त के किसी अगर कि उनको कोई फॉरवर्ड लिखना होता था, किसी का मतलब कोई पब्लिकेशन करनी होती थी, वो यहाँ आकर यहाँ पर उन्होंने फॉरवर्ड कुछ किताबों के लिखे यहाँ बैठकर, और कहते भी थे कि मैं श्रीनगर में भी मतलब आश्रम में मैंने शुरू किया है, उसके बाद मुझे ख्याल था जम्मू में आकर ये इसको, लेकिन मैं नहीं लिख सका। लेकिन यहाँ आकर मुझे ये देख लीजिए यहाँ पर कितना इसका इस जगह का कितना मतलब महत्व है, और यहाँ पर आकर मैंने ये फॉरवर्ड लिखे।
While Swamiji unraveled the mysteries of the sacred scriptures, he always emphasized the importance of practice. Shaivism, he pointed out, is not mere augmentation or intellection, but a system of meditative techniques and discipline developed over the centuries. Perhaps the greatest gift he gave his seekers was to fill the inner depth of their beings, to transfer to them the visions of divinity at the deepest levels of their consciousness.
Bumara votus gar yuthi me shaunus bata kyo kaf baje samjhish me dunya haun kya yim gods che yim sain devta che gods che tim mara ch me indian gat kharan samjhi timon control kay
बटवार दो हम सेक्युलरिज्मस मज रोजान ट्यूसडे मॉर्निंग सुबह तम नेरान 7 बजे हूँ तमि सात ये सात तम बेल करान अंदर अचान अख मारा तिहुंद रूप आसान साक्षात शिव बिल्कुल यथ पे शिवस आसान रूप तिथे पे बेस तथ कमरस मज मारा प्रकाश आसान सह मे वारिया लटि अनुभव कोर्मुत खास कर अमी दो ट्यूसडे दो यम दो तम सुबह दरवाज खोलान तम दो वुचान
I could not do anything, just to see in his eyes. I saw nothing but his eyes. His eyes were like two oceans, and I felt kind of drowned in the depth of that ocean, fathomless. I forgot myself, I forgot my personality, I forgot that I am one, I was lost.
Just as the renaissance of Kashmir Shaivism was gaining momentum, terrorism erupted in the valley in all its gruesomeness. Genocidal attacks by the terrorists forced the Kashmiri Pandits to flee the valley. A saddened Swamiji frantically tried to dissuade them, but much against his wishes, they all left except a handful.
That time I was there, मैं वहीं था, बिल्कुल वहीं था. सुबह शाम दिन को रात को अक्सर मिलते थे. काफ़ी दुख था उनको इस बात का. वो चाहते थे कि जितने भी वहाँ लोग भाग रहे थे, निकल रहे थे घर छोड़ के, उनकी इच्छा नहीं थी कोई भी निकले. हर एक को उन्हें नसीहत की, मशवरा दिया कि वो नहीं जाए यहाँ से, वो काफ़ी तकलीफ में होंगे. इट विल टेक सम टाइम, वो अक्सर कहते थे उन दिनों की. लेकिन कश्मीर जैसी जगह, पीसफुल जगह, अच्छी जगह नहीं हो सकती है सारे हिंदुस्तान में.
I don't know of any other master who, during such a period of time, when there's literally a war going on around you and militancy, and he stayed right there in the heart of it and conducted all his spiritual goings on. I'm not sure what the word is. I mean, he was an anchor. He was an anchor for Hindus there, and he definitely lived up to people's expectations of what a great master could do. I mean, he was fearless. I mean, there were stories of the military coming and saying, can we stay in the ashram, or we'd like to stay in the ashram, and him saying, he said, no, I don't need your protection. And they said, but we need your protection.
It was towards the end of the 80s that one witnessed a great change coming over Swamiji's mood. This was a time when he transcended the image people commonly had of him and entered what he called the Parabhairav state.
Swamiji at that time was in that ecstatic state. And so how he would dress, I think if people in India or even in Kashmir, his devotees who had been with him for a long time were to see that, would be surprised. You know, he would wear clothes, whatever clothes he wanted to wear, you know. So it could be like tight spandex type, you know, real tight things which he would never wear here, he did there. In terms of experimenting and trying foods, you know, he would ask for all kinds of different foods. You know, one that comes to mind is, he said one day that he wanted popcorn halwa.
Swamiji was in the ecstatic Parabhairav state when he visited Nepal in 1990. It was a very different Swamiji that his devotees now began to witness. He dressed strangely, became quite unpredictable, and ate irregularly, sometimes not eating at all. Traveling around the city, he visited the famous Pashupatinath temple. In Nepal, he delivered a series of lectures on Kashmir Shaivism in 1988-89.
Avratam jnanametena jnanino nityavairinam kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena jam. This is nityavairana, eternal enemy of.
Swamiji continued to remain in this very mood when his principal disciple Sharika Devi passed away on February 1991.
Immediately after the demise of Sharika Devi, Swamiji undertook a journey to Haridwar for immersion of her ashes. He was a little bit grieved also because he had lost hold of a very good, well-qualified disciple. He was somewhat upset with that.
What is little known is that it was only at this stage that Swamiji finally took sannyas at the hands of a Mahamandaleshwar sadhu.
At the end of the Havan ceremony and this initiation into sannyas, Swamiji gave him a bow, and Mahamandaleshwar told him that now comes the turn, now that I have initiated you into sannyas, you have to give me adequate dakshina for that. Swamiji took out a bundle of fresh notes, probably a lot of it must have been about 10,000 rupees, which he offered him. And the Mahamandaleshwar turned it down. He said, no, I do not want this kind of dakshina. Dakshina I want from you is that give me instant liberation. So Swamiji had a hearty laughter. He said, how can I do that? It's not such a common thing or such an ordinary thing. He said, no, you have already agreed to give me dakshina, and I want my dakshina only in that form and nothing short of that. And both of Swamiji accepted. He said, okay, you are liberated in life now, from now onwards. And the two became very ecstatic about it, and they started dancing, and they recited one of the lines, Om Namah Shivaya Shashvatai Shankarai Shambhave.
Soon after consigning Sharika Devi's ashes in the Ganga at Haridwar, Swamiji left for America in March 1991.
Interesting that transition time. I was in the U.S. when that all happened. I remember because I was very fortunate that he would we talked on the phone, and it's not easy to talk to somebody in India, especially in those days even. But we would talk almost weekly, and I remember one day he called and he says, "Oh, I want you to know I'm no longer Lakshman Joo. I'm Parabhairava." I said, what, sir, what? He was cosmic. I mean, he was always cosmic, but he wanted to re-reveal it. It's like he had a different, like even a more holistic and universal understanding. And he talked at one point also the fact that he said, "In my life, I realized, I had to try everything. I had to do every kind of practice to experience the experience of God consciousness through all different avenues and all different ways." And he says, "I don't want you to think I'm bragging." I said, then he got embarrassed, because he was like very shy that way. He said, but I've experienced everything.
In America, Swamiji performed a yajna in Los Angeles that had witnessed a severe drought for 5 years. And interestingly, the long dry spell was broken by a downpour which broke all existing records. But all was not well with Swamiji. Though physically unwell, he looked quite healthy and dynamic.
Yeah, just in terms of his physical, condition and stuff, that he, I'm sure, we would hear that, okay, Swamiji was not feeling well, he was taken to the doctors and stuff. But Swamiji was in so much control of his physical form that it was hard for us to see exactly. And Swamiji would not always, to him, what was happening to his body was, I think he was, as we all know, that he was, above that.
When Swamiji returned from America, he alighted from the plane in a wheelchair. Everyone was taken aback, quite shocked to see him in that state. Swami Lakshman Joo spent the last days at Noida in great physical pain. Yet his face continued to glow. And though he had already withdrawn from the outside world, his mind seemed as alert as before.
I was making inquiries as to where he was, and ultimately I was told that he was ill. He was very ill and he was in Noida. So I drove to see him. So there was some bhasma there. I took some bhasma and I made a tilak on his forehead. And by Lord Shiva's grace, early next morning, 4 o'clock, he left the body.
Early in the morning of September 27, 1991, Swami Lakshman Joo attained Mahasamadhi and became one with Param Shiva. When his earthly existence came to an end, his seekers came in surging numbers to pay the last respects to their dear departed Guru. In life, Swamiji's unprecedented contribution was to revive the almost forgotten vision of Kashmir Shaivism. Let us hope that in his death, he will continue to guide us in the light of the wisdom he radiated.
ट्रस्ट डीड में उन्होंने बिल्कुल क्लियर कट जो इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं वो दी है। तो उसमें मेन जो रोल है ट्रस्ट का वो यही है कि जो प्रोपगेशन होनी चाहिए अबाउट दिस कश्मीर शैवा फिलॉसफी, दैट शुड बी आवर प्रायोरिटी। और दूसरा उन्होंने ये कहा है कि ये जो डिसिप्लिन है, डिसिप्लिन हैज़ टू बी मेंटेन्ड एट ऑल कॉस्ट। और तीसरी बात ये कही है कि दैट the trust is supposed to carry all disciples, devotees as far as possible together.
Today, the Ishwar Ashram Trust runs centers at Srinagar, Jammu and Delhi.